My name's Jane, the host of Political Gravity. We have 4 co-hosts, one from Louisiana, one from Nevada, and 2 from California. There'll be at least 3 calling in tonight. So I'm going to read something to you before they call. It has to do with tariffs, which is very devastating at this time. So first I wanted to add that this is the most common fact of the week, that Trump imposed a 34% tariff on China, and then he added another 20% more, which is 54%. And then China turned around and did the same thing to us. So right now, I think it's 52 plus 52. The tariff going back and forth is 104%, which is only going to hurt both American and Chinese. It's going to hurt trade. It's going to hurt private purchases by Americans, because Amazon and China are connected, and so is the Walmart Corporation that does business with China. There's no satisfactory reason why Trump is technically testing countries in this way, and Japan is willing to negotiate with them, but Europe is not. They're thinking of retaliatory ways to re-script the world trade market without American dependency. This week, a Michigan politician wrote, 19 factories have had mass layoffs, 15 closed, and 4,134 factory workers across America lost their jobs. Cleveland Cliffs, which is associated with Minnesota also, and Michigan, that produce taconite pellets, and they create, the taconite pellets are made to create steel. They laid off 1,200 workers in Michigan and Minnesota. It was about 650 in Minnesota and 550 in Michigan, as they deal with the impact of the Trump tariffs. There's a congressman named Ro Khanna in Michigan. He's raising the alarm about mass layoffs in our country. On Thursday, the automakers said that the condition created by Trump's tariffs, they're laying off 900 workers for United Auto Workers, UAW. It's a very well-known union within the auto industry. This has affected a number of U.S. employees working at 5 Midwestern plants: the Warren Stamping and Sterling Stamping plants in Michigan, the Indiana Transmission Plant, Kokomo Transmission Plant, and Kokomo Casting Plant, all in Kokomo, Indiana. Saturday, the representative, Ro Khanna, he's from California, who has been advocating loudly, including Congress, said that there's no way that you can speed up manufacturing jobs in America. People who are already performing manufacturing jobs are suffering and being laid off. The reverse effect is happening from the tariffs. Also in today's news, the United States Supreme Court first in the lower courts, they denied Trump the power to lay off 16 newer federal workers who were on probation. And now the high court reversed the decision and allowed them who are on probationary status to be fired without basically any rights. And it seems like the United States Department of Justice, especially on the highest level, is in collusion with the Trump administration, bucking what what legal protections should be in place already. So with that, I'm going to call Bianca and Suzette. First, I'll try Bianca because Suzette usually doesn't need help calling in.
Hello.
Hi. Are you going to join the show? I have you on the air.
I thought the show starts at 10:30.
No, at 10.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, Suzette.
Well, this is Bianchi. Tall, dark, and handsome, and we're joining the show.
Well, Don and Suzette are calling, and I told her to wait 5 minutes. I did an introduction.
Oh, okay.
So, you know the plant in Arizona that you advertised to me online?
Yes.
First of all, what are they making there? And is it an oil refinery plant? And and who is the owner? And why are you crediting Donald Trump?
My grandson is working on that project as a project manager.
Well, what are they producing?
Liquefied natural gas.
And was it established right here, right now in the Trump administration, or was it established before January?
There was a lot of projects that were established before January that Joe Biden killed.
Joe Biden killed the deal?
Joe Biden banned, like he did, offshore exploration and drilling.
Because it was unsafe? Because it was environmentally unsafe?
It's because it's not the direction that the people that is pushing him or guiding him, that is Joe Biden, wants to go. It doesn't make any sense. And also, you got regulations. Regulations is killing a lot of projects, like making way stopping project because of a fish.
So did they move the plant from Louisiana to Arizona?
No, this is a different plant. I said, including like the one in Louisiana.
Okay. Well,
so he's worked on about four. He worked for Exxon. He's right out of college. Exxon. He worked on a LPG plant there outside of New Orleans. He worked on one in Texas. And I don't know if he worked on one in Oklahoma, but now he's in Arizona.
Wow. So is this the one who is this the talented football player?
No.
Okay, it's a different one?
Yeah, this is my grandson. That other one is my nephew on my former wife's side.
Oh, okay. Well,
this kid's doing good. This kid's doing good thing. They don't get no commemoration. See, the thing that gets me is that you see these policies. You know and there's a lot of these, not only just black and whites too. You know that when these young people go through the process of becoming an engineer, they have taken on a very difficult path. And they should be supported rather than putting in policy that's going to stymie their ability to go out and extract from the opportunities that this country so makes for.
Are you talking about oil manufacturing or different other kinds of
different ones? It's not just that one, but I know that one very well, more so than any other. That and steel I know very well.
I have a question for you, the first thing is with all these immediate tariffs and the increase disproportionately, like now China has to pay 104% for any product they're exporting. And because of the disparity in the tariffs, Minnesota and Michigan laid off 1,200 taconite workers. They shut the plants down in northern Minnesota, and that's mainly the only industry up there.
Well, where are they doing at those plants? And another thing, why is everyone on Trump? He said reciprocal. So why don't China do away with his tariffs?
I don't know. I read one article today that Trump raised the tariff really high to see if China would counter with a better deal, and they didn't. They're stupefied and they're not sure what to do.
See, the problem was, and we can wait till the show. I'm going to talk about this so everybody can hear it. But it's not the United States entirely. It's these other countries that's been ripping the United States off for decades and decades.
I know, but didn't Trump impose tariffs in his first term that he thought was
and they probably weren't enough. If you want to charge me, so you're saying I can't charge you?
I'm not saying that. I think the tariffs are too high, and certain countries like Taiwan, they make computer chips, and they're the only experts in this field. No other country makes the type of computer chips that they need for phones than Taiwan. And it's not really Trump's job to see if a new American business is going to take that mantle from the Taiwanese. And
well, where did the Taiwanese get it from?
They developed it through technology.
They got the technology from the United States, which got it from the space program early on, going back to the era of Sputnik.
Well, they could have gotten some of it from Europe, too.
No, I don't know. Europe wasn't good at that, Jay.
Okay, well, hold that thought for 30 seconds. I'm going to try calling Suzette, okay?
Yes.
So just stay on pause for a minute. Okay, thank you.
I'm making tea.
Okay, take your time. You don't have to talk right now.
I'm adding cinnamon.
All right, go for it.
Okay.
Suzette's not answering, so
Where's everyone else?
wait, just a minute. I have to call Don. Usually he calls him in himself.
He's afraid.
Suzette,
I'm adding honey and cinnamon to my tea. It's going to be good.
okay, just stay on the phone. I'm going to call her one more time. She got mixed up with the time. Okay, one sec. Okay, let me try one more time. She's not Hello?
I'm here.
She's not she's not answering. She just texted me like 2 minutes ago, so I don't know what's going on. She's out of it.
I don't know.
Oh, here she called in. Hi, Suzette. Hi, Suzette.
Hello.
You didn't miss the show. It just started.
Oh, okay.
Why did you think you missed it?
Because I had gotten your text that said show was going to start in 5 minutes, and that was like, I know, earlier.
No, I just sent it. I sent it at 10 to 10, or at 9:50.
Okay.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay.
It's 10:15 in Minnesota. I sent it to you around 5 minutes to 10.
Yes, and that's why I thought I missed it. I didn't realize what time it was. I'm all discombobulated.
Well, me and Bianchi have been on the air for 10 minutes. Do you have to catch your breath before you can participate?
No, I'm okay. Like I said, I just woke up a little bit ago when I had texted you and told you. But I got my headphones on and plugged into my phone and ready to go.
Okay, well, so far I did a 2 to 4 minute intro by myself. Bianchi is making tea with cinnamon, and he still thinks the tariffs are fair, and I don't think the tariffs are fair at all. And a lot of countries around the world are in a rage. And Minnesota just laid off 650 steel workers that make taconite pellets, as well as a Michigan plant. So I don't see how you guys, even as Republicans, could view his behavior as fair.
Well, there's 29 countries already that have zeroed out the tariffs that they had on the U.S. imports for stuff. And so China's the only one that's holding out right now. But the other countries felt, as far as the fair trade goes.
I heard that.
Yeah, and then tariffs that are imposed on countries are not even, they're about half of what they impose on the U.S. exports, the new tariffs that are being applied. So, if there's, we're being taxed 40%, then they'll be taxed 20%. And it just goes down the line like that. So, we're still not charging them what they charge us to import. And tariffs were used, I guess it was like 1820s back then, and we didn't have income tax and all these other taxes because the money from tariffs from these countries paid for that. And then we had the war, and then they decided to use taxes instead to pay for the war. So that's how they started with that. But they never took them back, never took them away again. And so, we had reduced our tariffs, and basically we just want fair trade. It's not even about free trade, it's about fair trade. And when countries are...
Hold on a sec, I gotta bring Dawn in. Hold on. Okay, Dawn. Dawn, mute. If you're at a baseball game, mute yourself. Don?
I'm here. Hi.
Well, there's a bunch of background noise. How are we supposed to talk?
That's all right. I wanted to say hi to you too.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm at the baseball game. I'll put it on mute until I say something. But you're muffled again. Your voice sounds like you're in a toilet.
I'm gonna muffle your butt. Now, Suzette's talking right now, so just when you have a private moment, you can come into the show.
No problem. No problem at all.
Okay, thank you for calling, though.
You bet.
Okay, continue with that thought, Suzette.
Okay, so also with tariffs, it will help bring companies back or industries back to the United States. And if you say, how do you know that? Well, the reason why these companies have left because of the cheap labor and overall cost to them, the companies that had went to China and Vietnam, Guam, wherever it is that they went, because it was cheaper than here. And that's because of the import-export tariffs that they were being also charged to get their items out there. And there are some countries, out there that you don't want to even take our products. And what they do, but they'll sell their products here. And so when you do that, you start taking away jobs and companies or industries because, it's cheaper for them to go to another country, make their items, pay cheap labor, and if we don't have any tariffs on them, they can just bring it on in over here to the United States, and so we have a bunch of cheap stuff being made. It's not even long-lasting or anything, but that doesn't need setting that aside for a moment. So we're importing more than we export, and that's not good. and when you have countries that tell their people not to buy American stuff, so when we try to export out, it's very minimal, and then they charge us a high tariff on it. And so what President Trump is trying to do is incentivize these companies to come back to America, so this way they're not losing money. It employs people, and we can still import, export, but in a more fair manner than before, because we're getting gutted. Everything, we rely on exports for everything. I mean, it scares the hell out of me to know that China is responsible for making all of our pharmacy goods, all the medications and everything that we have, and that scares me to hell, because I have no reason to distrust the Chinese people, but their government, I do not trust. And they could do whatever. I mean, they poison their own baby formula, for their people there, just to help reduce the population. I mean, good God, they would have no problem in a blink of an eye doing that to the U.S. and all of our imports from them. Most of our frozen goods are from China. Pharmacy goods from China. Almost everything is from China. Of course, we have other imports from other countries as well, but most of it is from from China. I believe it's something in the area of like 60 to 70% of our imports are from China, I believe. It could be more, it could be a little bit less, but nothing less than 60%. I know we have big time imports, and when they manipulate their dollar to be less, then that means, basically they don't have to pay anything when they bring their stuff import to the U.S. So all President Trump is doing is to make it a fair trade for companies to come back to the United States and make and build stuff here, which will employ people here. And, as far as the cost of living, that won't go down necessarily, but wages will start to come up and even out, so this way, America can start building its wealth again.
Yeah, but I have a counterpoint to that.
Okay.
I'll just give you Okay, pipe down, Bianca. Taiwan, particularly through their semiconductor manufacturing company, dominates global production of advanced computer chips. They have expertise in the world's most advanced semiconductors. So you can't just take a whole plant and move it to America without our own level of expertise and our own people to run the plant who are not prepared. You have to have investors. You have to have a building. You have to know what you're doing. Like, I just don't understand how you guys think that they're just going to pop back into the United States and manage these businesses.
Taiwan does not outdo IBM. Deep Blue. There's been world competitions, and Deep Blue has came in first place.
I haven't heard about IBM in 20 years.
Well, that's because you be reading the cartoons.
I just haven't heard about them.
That was funny, Jack.
Here's the thing.
What does he mean by blue, Don? Like, what does he mean like a blue something?
That's the name of that processor.
Okay. I thought it was some kind of royal award.
But no, America, those factories will be built in the United States. When you build...
It takes 3 or 4 years.
When you build infrastructure in the United States, you also add assets. Those assets is always worth something. It's a physical asset. And if they do Taiwan companies come here, they're going to have to take on American partnership. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and also as far as building factories or buildings that will house industries to make cars or whatever, we have a lot of factories. We have a lot of buildings that can be repurposed for these companies' needs that can also be purchased. So their expense as far as building again isn't going to be, a problem. I mean, as far as building, we have these buildings that need to be repurposed, just sitting there, and that's a lot cheaper. They do it all the time. And overall, as far as Taiwan goes, we're mining cobalt here already in the United States. And, it blows me away when I hear, well, we get our minerals and stuff from Africa or from Taiwan, and why would you want to bring that here? Well, why would you want to keep slave labor?
Well, it's not like I don't want to bring it here. I just think it's going to take time. It's not something you can do instantaneously.
Oh, right. Of course, it's going to take some time for some industries and not so much time for others to get back into the U.S. and up and running and all that. I totally agree with you there. This stuff isn't going to happen overnight. But in the meantime, at least reciprocal fair trade is going to work towards restoring, America's wealth. Again, I mean, doesn't it scare you that China produces most of our pharmacy medications and stuff like that?
No, because I've been taking the same pills 20 years and I'm not dead yet.
Okay, but
everything we have: knives, forks, spoons,
right,
pans.
But medications, they're not monitored by our FDA. They don't have to meet our standards. That's another thing. When countries import or export to the United States, they do not have to meet standards, our USDA standards, our FDA standards, to bring it in here.
It sounds like RFK's job.
Huh?
It sounds like Robert Kennedy's job to develop an oversight committee for that.
Well, we can't. It's not in the deal. We can't just put as far as inspection and send it back. That's not how it works. But they can inspect our stuff, and if our stuff isn't to their regulations, which really isn't much, then they can actually turn around at this point in time and sue the U.S. for producing something bad standard that entered their country. And I read that, and I was like, well, I read that a long time ago. I was like, holy crap, what's this about? When I found out that we were actually exporting our good, produce, lemons and stuff like that out, and then we would import another country's lemons, and they wouldn't be up to the same grade or standard, but we didn't have any recourse. But if we produced something and sent it over there, and they took it, they could actually sue the United States for the bad. Whatever it was.
Okay, so
meet their regulations.
I have an overarching question, then I'll let Bianchi and Don start talking.
Okay.
We live in a global economy. It's 2025. Minuscule auto parts that are made in Germany come over here. Volvo is in Sweden. It's an interconnected type of thing. And what makes people think that America is not necessarily the center of the universe anymore? It's multi-diversive.
Look, I'd rather buy American than to buy Volvo, rather than buy Germany, rather than buy any of those other companies. I'm bringing American to work.
Well, like Hyundai has plants in Kentucky and I think Indiana, but not every foreign car company has a place here.
And they are ready to invest $20 billion in Louisiana to put Louisianans to work.
I know, but did you know that plant hasn't even been built yet? It's just an idea right now.
Well, it's not. They're breaking ground. Also, you got Nissan plants there in Alabama. You got plants there in Mississippi. That was the product of Trump's first term. Toyota plants.
Okay, well, I think in 3 years, we're either going to be in a global war, an economic war, but right now it's mass chaos. And even Trump's billionaire friends on Wall Street are pissed off.
Because they was probably making money off of this fashion type of trade. This lopsided trade that's been going on. After all, some of these people get paid a commission for opening the doors for outsiders to come in.
All I know is that everything is not black and white. It's not enemy versus enemy versus enemy. Some of them are just disenfranchised friends that Trump puts into a classification of enemy.
These other countries don't have a consumer base. They don't have one, Jane. They don't have a consumer base.
Well, once all the...
that kind of remind me of Henry Ford. Henry Ford priced the Model T4 so that his assembly workers could buy it. But in these foreign countries, they have no consumer base, so everything is geared on using the United States as a consumer base for their products. And that stuff has got to stop.
Okay, so if right now in Minnesota, they're laying 10% off of teachers. They've already laid off the bulk of our steel workers. If everybody's unemployed, who's going to buy anything anyway?
They'll be back. Granite City, Illinois, Granite City Steel, but Trump's first term, they started back up 2 units that had been shut down because of Russian imports of steel. India imports of steel. Trump stopped it with tariffs.
Well, now
Joe Biden got back in, he put it back as it was before Trump. So it seems to me like that's the type of business that they like to do. They are anti-American.
Not necessarily. Maybe they're just taking shortcuts.
Granite City Steel, Granite City, Illinois is a small town that depended heavily on that steel mill. It depended on the steel mill for employment. It depended on the steel mill for restaurants and stores and cafeterias. It depended on that steel mill. So when Biden done the things that he done and initiated to cause the units to be reclosed after USS Steel opened them based on Trump's tariff, then they started experiencing very, very dire circumstances. We have to hire Americans. What else is Americans going to do? What kind of jobs is out there? You got people that's unskilled. We know how terrible the school systems are. This is why one of the reasons Hyundai chose Louisiana, because they said Louisiana has a great educational system. And now you have community colleges that's opening up, and they're beginning to teach their students the skills that they need to have when they go to work in these Hyundai car manufacturing plants and Hyundai steel manufacturing plants.
Yeah, you brought that up last week. I'm just saying that in December we did have a good economic. We had a good economy in December. I feel like Trump is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. He doesn't have to upset the whole apple cart just to achieve an arbitrary goal.
Immigrants have had the opportunity to straighten this mess out for a long time. Even Barack Obama talked about it. And before him, guess what? Bill Clinton talked about it. Nothing was ever done. It was just business as usual. That stuff is stopping. We got a new sheriff in town. His name is Donald J. Trump.
Well,
and the jobs that were created under Biden were mostly government jobs.
Absolutely.
Well, now that a lot of government people don't have jobs, including the veterans and the finance administration, and he fired 2 national security advisors a week ago.
We don't need them.
Yes, we need at least one oversight.
Most of the people that were refired are people that were on probation period anyway, that people usually have when they first start a job. And that was most of the people. Yes, in the beginning when they did the firings, but they reinstated a lot of those people. But the other ones were on probation, and that's just how it goes when companies make cuts. Who's the first to go? The lowest person's on the totem pole. They're still on probation. But
I just don't understand. I don't understand. I'm gonna let you guys talk because I just think it's so, everything is so beyond the mark. You know, like Europe is retaliating against us. Trump put tariffs on a island that only had penguins. Did you guys see that in the news? That they don't even export anything, and he put like a 75% tariff on Lesotho. He thinks there's some kind of.
You put a tariff on an island that with no inhabitants.
Right, it has penguins.
But no, that shows the idiocy and hypocrisy of him and his policies. Because emblematic is asking for jobs, moving for jobs, having a plank and platforms about jobs, and then all he's done so far is cut jobs. He hasn't added a damn person to the roles that weren't already on. So this is a hypocritical concept, but I love the way that he's dicing up the country, because he's really robbing the rich people first.
He is, because they can't invest in something they don't know what's going to happen.
Well, they know what's going to happen when you put tariffs on. You've been talking about tariffs. When you put on tariffs, you know what's going to happen. Ultimately, the consumer is going to pay the cost, and it is a tax. It's a regressive tax based on the amount of product. So, the consumer is the problem. The consumer has always been the problem. We have Chinese everything. Our furniture, you forgot the TVs, you forgot the radios, some of our washing machines, appliances. But Mexico is our biggest trade partner.
Well, China makes all the iPhones.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Well, the hardware.
But Don, here's the thing right here. And cool that you might back me up. Why don't the naysayers go after these other countries and tell them to drop their tariffs? We wouldn't put tariffs on if they was not tariffing the hell out of us.
Well, that's because that's our weakness. We're weak. We want things for cheap. We want nice things for cheap. And we just came out of living in the dark ages coming into America. There was nothing here. For 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, really, we've been building. And now we're getting to a point of saturation. And when you're saturated, that means your supply has reached its maximum. And so now, Americans could not fulfill that supply request demand because we didn't have enough manufacturing. None of our people wanted to work. Too, because we're a privileged class. We're a bougie country. People, I don't know if you've ever, I know Bianchi and anybody else who's ever gone around the world, when you go around the world, man, those people hate us with a passion. And they don't,
because they think we're spoiled.
That's what I just said.
That's what it is. They envious.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. That's the part of it.
I don't think it's all envy.
No, that's why I changed it. It's a part of it, but it's not completely all of it. The main thing is that people want to be Americans. The Asian countries, that is their main goal. If it wasn't in India, if it wasn't for the fact of colonization to Europe, to England, and people from India they're climbing all kinds of boats to come here. So we're the emblem of success in the world. Everyone wants to come here, and we have what they see is plush. We have any water, for God's sake. So,
Yeah.
so this is.
I don't think they envy us because of our materialism. They envy us because of our educational opportunities that now Donald Trump has thrown a monkey wrench in.
He had thrown a monkey wrench in.
Yes, he has. Undergrad people cannot get cannot get grants and loans anymore.
It's okay though. But people have to look for the future. People are so committed to the right now. They're ignorant because they don't understand the future is what holds everything that they do. Everything they do, Bianchi knows it very well. He's been a part of building America, and so he has a very good pride in it. I do too. Suzette does too. We built this shit. I've been, I built policy. So we're proud Americans who will do whatever it takes, except that we have a weakness, and that is we want things cheap. We started badly when Henry Ford made American products affordable, but then we went into the 70s. Our car makers, American car makers, went downhill fast, and Japan came in, and the next thing we knew, all of our money is going export.
Yeah, and the unions. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. If it wasn't for the unions, we wouldn't have any American parts. And that's why.
And they understand the tariffs and support it.
Yep.
They've coal miners just recently backed Trump on his tariffs, and American steel workers had last week. So.
I want to say something else though, like people like.
This is necessary, Jane.
Wait, Spain and France. You're not look. I'm not saying anything that you said tonight was wrong, but I'm saying other cultures have a different value system. For example, in Spain and Italy, they don't work a 5-hour work week. And in Italy, they work 4 days and then they have one midweek day off. And then everyone has to work free on the weekend or some random crap. In Spain, they have a 3-hour siesta from like noon to 3. And then they go back to their shops. Like, not everybody's all about the money.
Yeah, but in they run those people 17 hours a day. In Africa, they're in the mine.
John's on the show just a minute. Just a minute. I had a John's on the show, you guys. Here he is.
Hell, in Africa, it take a half a day to get to the bottom of the line, even if you jumped off in the hole.
It's so big.
Okay, now that John's on the show, we got Suzette, Bianchi, Don, and John and Jane, and so now I can go take my nap.
Yeah, right. Whatever. You're not Italian.
By the way, I've defected. I defected as an American about 25 years ago. So I don't have. I'm not loyal to America.
Okay, you defected from.
I'm not sure where I defected to, but I know I defected from. Okay, now John, your turn, or somebody else spark up the conversation.
Well, we suspected that you were defective for a long time, but I guess you confessed it tonight.
Bravo, John. Bravo.
Здравствуйте. Как вас дела? Как вас зовут? Пожалуйста. Okay.
Прекрасно.
That was my Russian words. Привет. Спасибо. Доброе утро. Okay, your turn, John.
I hear the word slavery in the first 5 seconds. We're talking about slavery.
Okay, now your phone's cracking up.
Well, I could try the other phone.
No, just stay. It cleared up just now.
Oh, okay. So
So what's today's raging topic?
Tariffs and transfer of production back to the U.S. I'm arguing that it's going to take years to do that. You can't just pick up a plant from Taiwan and move it over here. And
It doesn't take that long.
it's 3 versus 1. They're against me.
Well, it's kind of like a kid that doesn't know how to swim. You know, you can spend a few weeks trying, you know, and that's a nice approach. But if the kid doesn't want to do it, sometimes you just throw them in the water and say, okay, learn. And you either drown or you learn how to swim. And I think that's kind of the concept. We've been talking for how many years? I remember in the 90s, late 90s, I was working in office supply chain. We worked at the same company, Systematic Office Supply. I remember it was about the end of kind of like 98, 99. And we used to deal with a warehouser. And there was like 4 or 5 companies that did paper, like copy paper. And that was a big thing in sales because you had to get the copy paper to get an account into an office. That was the primary thing. And Staples and Office Depot would dump cheap copy paper. You know, like they'd sell it at cost, and we had to match because you had to get in there as a lost leader, what they called it. I remember talking to the warehouser rep, and he was saying, well, you know, we're closing out and we won't be making any paper in the United States. I said, really? He said, no, it's all overseas, all out of country. And I think this is terrible. It's like we don't have any paper supplies, but we don't make our own drugs. We don't make our own components. We don't make the chips. We don't make anything. How do you what do you do in World War II? I mean, we went into mass production, didn't we? Remember, women they would stop wearing, certain products that had rubber or pantyhose, all that stuff. They would because they wanted to go into the parachutes and into the rubber for the tanks, or not the tanks, but the vehicles for war. What are we going to do in a battle with China if they supply everything we've got? It's terrible. And I remember that time, that sinking feeling, like, why are we allowing ourselves to be decapitated? It's like they didn't, launch a missile on us. We killed ourselves. Like, well, we're getting cheap, TVs, we're getting cheap radios. Who cares? I remember my uncle was telling his daughter, my cousin, Julie, like, buy a Ford. I said, America makes crap. I'm going to buy a Toyota. He says, yeah, but the problem is we're going to gut our industry. And that's what we did. She got a cheaper price on a car, but we don't have any factory jobs or any industry per se. So, it's something that has to be done sooner or later. I mean, what do you think, Suzette? Or Don?
Ford was building a B-17 bomber, 1 per hour. Not only for the United States, but for the Allies also. You had Henry Kaiser that was producing a Liberty ship 1 a day. That was some of the most remarkable manufacturing that this world has ever seen. So you gonna get rid of Ford? GM can't afford to go under. We may need it. I mean, just think about that. Look at the Jeeps that Ford provided.
Oh, yeah. And, the biggest thing I hear all the time, this is a disastrous, strategy as far as, like, tariffs don't work. I keep hearing all over. I listen to all the stuff, MSNBC, Morning Joe, Rachel Madcow, all these people. And they're going, this is the end of the world. Trump has destroyed the economy in 1 week. Like, 1 week, it's all been destroyed. And here's the big question is always, why do these other countries charge us tariffs if tariffs don't work? Because they work. Trump isn't like trying to be the big bad man. He's just saying reciprocal. It's just like you're slapping us for years, and when it's like this boyfriend, like the girlfriend that always punches him in the shoulder, or slaps him in front of people, or makes a big scene, and the guy just takes it. It's called being a simp. Just whatever she does to me. And Trump is finally saying, "Whoa!" I remember. I had a girlfriend, I actually married her. She loved to punch me in the shoulder. I don't know where she learned this from. Ow. And one day, I popped her in the shoulder back. She said, ow. I said, yeah. It hurts, doesn't it? Don't do that. That's all I ask. Don't punch me in the shoulder. Say, that was it. And if she did, I would have broken up with her. It's like, yeah, you don't do that. And she learned very quickly. And that's, everyone's going, oh my goodness, you shouldn't do it this way. No, guess what? They're going to have to negotiate, and we're going to have to negotiate because we both need each other in this trade stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need these supplies, but they need to sell it to us. It's like, when you make bread, right, and your bakery or something, and no one shows up to buy your stuff, what do? You start cutting the price down. You start saying, oh, here's buy one, get one free, right? Go ahead, Suzette.
Oh, no, I was just, go ahead, finish your thought.
That's just economics. So Trump understands economics, and he understands in a card game, this is a deadly card game. Someone say, well, we can wait. No, we cannot wait. This is a life or death situation for the country. And, 36 trill in debt, yeah, this is major. This isn't a game. And same thing with what China's doing. They're putting their warships, and their carriers like go by the Panama Canal and these certain areas of the Philippines. They're trying to choke off trade and slowly repossess areas. They're building islands out by the Philippines, building little islands, and they go, well, this is our little land here. And
it's gotten so bad that we don't even build our own ships anymore. And, who's to say one of our allies might be enticed to not be an ally anymore. And they're the ones that may be building the ship or part of the ship that would be defective, in order to help us, or, basically make us lose a war or whatever. Our planes, anything military like that is all built someplace else. It's not built here in the United States. And not only that, but these countries panicked with their tariffs and were disagreeing with them. And Trump was doing half of what basically they were put tariffs on their exports to import here in America. And so people who are saying, that's not fair, you're going to, hurt these countries and the people and all that. And it's like, well, how do you figure if he's doing half? We're still eating it, part of it, and so they're still making out. But if he halved the tariffs, I don't see it's basically fair.
I disagree with Trump on that half. I think that we should put equal or full plus about 10%. To hell with that being fair crap. Ain't nobody fair. We're not playing horseshoes. We're talking about economy.
And that's basically...
United States need to be... Here's the funny thing. Some of these countries that we have a trade balance with, we give them aid. And their members of their society are still starving and in poverty.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. But there is a 10% also based on those tariffs as well. So we have half and then we have the extra 10%. But nevertheless, at least they're brought to the table now, those countries that decided that it was in their best interest to, lower their tariffs or zero out their tariffs. And so now we can negotiate as far as reciprocal trade, fair trade, and not be taken to the cleaners anymore. And so... he doesn't want free trade because free trade doesn't work, but we want fair trade.
We're not being taken to the cleaners. We've been paying other countries to be our friends for years. That's what we do. We're pigs. We're fucking American pigs, and we want to pay everybody to make sure that they accept our pigdom. That's what it is. And
it's hurting American manufacturing for that reason.
Now it is big time.
Yeah.
And that's what you folks don't understand, and it's really a sad conversation to listen to all your conjecture, but the real problems haven't been addressed, and that's making sure that people, the government, and everybody works for the people. And that's what all this is here for. The president is supposed to work for the people. That's what we're all of our senators, legislators, they're out for the oligarchs and the money, and this is bastardizing our country. That's what.
Well, that's a blanket statement, oligarchs. The tax cuts actually.
John, shut up, John, please.
Yeah, no, I don't have to shut up.
No,
This is America, Don. No, Don, I don't have to shut up. You said your piece. Wait a second, Don. You said your piece and continue, but I get to speak. This isn't Nazi Germany. You're talking about oligarchs, and then you talk over me. You tell me to shut up. I don't have to shut up.
This is Nazi Germany.
I don't have to shut up, though. You understand it? You don't have to shut up. I don't have to shut up. Nobody has to shut up. We listen to each other. We don't bomb Tesla dealerships. We don't have to talk over people.
Those white people are bombing Tesla dealerships all the time.
No, those are Democrats. Those are liberals.
They're not.
That's your team.
They're anarchists.
Listen to Jasmine Crockett.
What's that?
Have you listened to what Jasmine Crockett, your number one star, is talking about? I hope Tesla goes away. I hope they wipe it out. She says all this terrible stuff.
That's what I'm saying. This is good. Whatever Trump is doing right now is excellent, because we're now going to be everybody is going to be free to do what they want any old time. That's the whole point about being an American and all of this that we're talking about, I've been talking about. It's about freedom. We came here, we're here so that we can do what we want to do, period. All the time. And all these
not totally free.
Federal overreach is.
Remember the Civil War? Well, here's a question. Remember the Civil War? What do you think about this? The South wanted to do what they wanted to do. We want to have slaves, and we don't want to be part of the United States. We're jumping ship. And guess what happened? The North said, no, you're not going to succeed. We're going to battle.
Exactly.
So you can't do everything you want. You want to just bomb, Tesla dealerships. You want to assassinate Trump. No, you can't just do that.
I know it, but this should have started when you just can't lynch somebody or shoot them because they ran away or sick dogs on them and put them in jail and scar them up and take
that happened many years. That happened many years ago.
But they're the same theoretical things that you're talking about. It's happening. So I don't understand why. I don't understand.
You mean that you're getting lynched? That you're getting lynched, or your politics are lynching America?
Right. That's what I mean. Right now, nobody's safe, and that's the difference. That's why there's an outcry. That's why we had days like yesterday, when the day resist day or something like that.
Who's the leader of your party, Don? Who's the leader of your party?
No one.
Bernie topped the list. Bernie and AOC. There they are, 8-9% of the party.
But they're not. That's all.
And they're far left. You know that. They're communists, basically.
That's why they're not leaders of our party. They're not leaders because they have a faction that believes in them, but everybody else is, Elizabeth Warren just cackles like a hen. So, we're just trying to, and I know these people.
They don't even know what a woman is. She's a woman. She doesn't even know what she is.
No, that's not that. The tranny thing is the one that lost the race, ultimately. But, the bottom line is that reality is that trans people should be separated from sports. Or, there shouldn't be any interaction with the teams on recorded sports. Heck no.
I'm still trying to split her pronouns are AOC. Now she believes she's Latinx, but or Latinx, whatever. But her first name is feminine, Alexandria. Okay, according to what like that's a female pronoun, and Ocasio, that's a masculine. The O is masculine. She doesn't even. She should be Alexander X Ocasio X whatever, right? Like she doesn't even practice what she believes. She
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. It's like, well, how can they have women's rights? They don't believe in
Look at the bill came out of Colorado legislature where a parent can be penalized or be jailed if they prevent their child from self-identifying with these pronoun words, which is different than their biological makeup. That's a bunch of craziness. A parent of disapproval of their child going through gender affirmation surgeries and stuff, the parent can be penalized. That's ridiculous.
You know, the only call it race or creature that they deal with this gender stuff is with humans. I haven't heard anyone say, "Oh, I don't gender is your dog," right? Well, like he identifies as what? Like it's either male or female, right? It's one or the other. It's like I'm buying. Oh, yeah, I got a new dog. Oh, it's a female. Oh, that's right. You know, I hear him say, "Well, this dog identifies as fluid, binary."
So the latest thing that Doge uncovered today, or I think yesterday or today, are the properties that are in DC that are owned by the federal government. Those leases belong to, a lot of them belong to like congressional member families. And, you know, because we don't need to have these empty buildings hanging out, and yet, you know, we're paying for those just in case we might need them. But they're empty. There's no purpose for them. They're just there, and they're just hanging onto land. But that land is being leased to the federal government by the people that own them, and they're finding that congressional members, Senate members are family member owned, so to speak. And so that's going to be revealed more in detail coming up this Friday, but that's the latest being reported right now. And can't be doing that. And Democrats and Republicans both. So it's not one side or the other. They're finding out, you know, as far as who these people are, exactly who they belong to as far as family member. And so they're doing a lot of good. And, you know, Elon Musk, I guess, will be leaving at the end of this month. And that's because he's a temporary employee, or a temporary, not employee, but a temporary advisor, because he doesn't get paid. And if he got paid, then he would be an employee. But a temporary advisor can only work for 130 days and not past that. And so that's why he's leaving at the end of this month, the Doge. But the Doge will continue. It's been there for a long time. They just hadn't been doing their job. So and now they are, which is good. And I would like to see people held accountable for whatever shenanigans and role that they played in the waste fraud that had put out, you know, billions of dollars basically to wherever they wanted, whether it was buildings with family members or to countries or special interests, and all of that. And like Don was saying, these tariffs are what's happening with the stock market, with that going down. People should be happy because basically those people are the rich people that the left is always complaining about, taxing the rich, taxing the rich. Well, in a way, they're getting taxed at this moment in time. And instead of applauding it, they're freaking out about it. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. So you want the stock market to go up and have all these billionaires continue to just, you know, make money off of your backs, basically. Or do you want to wake them up and see that they need to start investing in America again? I don't get it. Why they're so upset on the left about and worried about the stock market, unless they're the ones that actually have the money that they're losing. Any thoughts?
They do. That's a very good point. They've got to gurus, and that's why the oligarchs aren't putting up a big stink, because they'll collect it later on in the end when the tariffs start taking hold, and the jobs will come back. Just my problem. First of all this is theoretical. Hopefully every piece fits in place. But the main thing is, do we have enough workers? Our workers are lazy, dumb, and, you know.
You got to start training them like they're doing in Louisiana.
AI robot.
and the community college. And the thing about stocks, you don't lose money until you sell. And it's always a sell-off. It's a sell-off in order to accumulate cash. Why do you want to sell off and accumulate cash? Sell-off makes the stock price go down. And it's like a falling knife. It's going to go down, and they'll buy it back, buy more than they initially had. You can't get over. You just can't defeat a person that's rich. So what's the likelihood, the solution? Become rich yourself.
Well, that's the whole thing is, okay, so those people that are rich and are losing money, they're never going to lose it to destitution, but it also opens up the market for other people to get in when those prices drop.
Absolutely. You're absolutely.
That's what I was saying.
Right. And you don't lose until you sell. If it works $100 one day, if it works $25 the next, you ain't lost nothing until you sell it. It's just paper.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying. So, we need a reset, and that's what this is. So we're going to, the smart people are going to adjust to it, and the rich people are, like Suzette said, they're not going to lose pretty much anything. So they're just playing Ponzi game with all of our money. That's what the stock market is. And so, we're just here making sure that we calculate and strategize our own budgets and our own family needs, and then everything else is going to work it out. Supply and demand always takes effect, and there's going to be more supply and less demand because there aren't going to be that much or that many or that wealthy a consumer, and that's going to level the playing field. Are we socialism? And if there's a militarization of our troops, everybody's being deputized, then we're looking at a Nazi regime in the next probably 4 or 5 years. But, that's something that everybody else is going to have to take in, because us minorities, we don't fucking participate in the economic system. We're consumers. We make money and then we spend it. There is no investment that most African Americans use. So there are few and far between, but still all this money that's being exchanged right now is the white man's money. That's his money. So, let it fall where it may.
Well, you mentioned Nazis, and it's not MAGA and it's not conservative people. They're shooting up showrooms with AK-47 or AR-15s, or bombing, actually Mazel Tov, bombing Tesla vehicles, and doing. We had it was like 1,300 protests this last weekend. 1,300 in cities, just all over the. I was watching MSNBC, and they're actually sparking it. They're like, they had Ezra Levin, who's in charge of his group. I forget what the name, Indivisible, I think, and that'd be interesting to find out who's actually financing him. But basically, they're saying every two weeks, every city, just have mass protests and try to for what? It's like they're basically like bomb a Tesla dealership. How many years have they said we need to go green? We were actually commanded the new Green Deal. Joe Biden and the whole Democratic Party said you have to, not just optional. You have to go green. California has all these restrictions. No more gas stoves and all these different things they were trying to implement with the vehicles. Like you can't have gas buses. You can't have gas, government vehicles. This is all like forced that we had to do it this way. And so the Nazi regime isn't with Donald Trump. You're gaslighting America. Again, America is not out there bombing dealerships of anyone. Don't do that.
And there is no protest, so we're saying hands off.
Oil guy. And now he is teamed up with an EV guy. That is sick. That's bipolar bitchism. And that's the thing.
The guy is cutting waste. He's exposing all the waste. Isn't that what he was supposed to do? Have transparency.
No, he can gladly ally himself with both oil and heat. I mean, he can.
That's what he's doing.
Well, he can. If he did the economy with grace and levity, he would have the economy running smoothly instead of choppily. And we're looking at a recession because we may not be able to get out.
There's going to be pain before there's gain. You can't fix anything.
Is not through that. Recession is not pain. Recession is death.
Okay, if we don't go into a recession, will you eat your shoe on air?
Oh no, I don't know. No, I don't. So I'm saying I said we're looking at. I didn't say we're in it. We're not in it yet, even though there's a 15% drop of the stock market, and that does mean that we're in a recession. There has already been a 15% drop. So technically, we are in a recession right now.
Well, people are selling their stocks. Corporation. My fiscal year in my company was in April, I think. I don't know. It might have been June. It doesn't happen on December the 31st, January the 31st. A corporation can have an ending fiscal year anytime they want to. So people sell off in order to avoid taxation. That's what's going on. I tell you what, you want to solve a lot of the problems that we perceive, do away with taxes. Why we need taxes anyway? Do away with it.
But that's where our streets come in. We need streets, we need sewers that are...
No, that's local taxes. Do away with the federal taxes.
No, the local taxes aren't able to keep up.
Federal taxes don't pay for your streets.
Oh, well, okay. All right, when you say taxes, I'm thinking you mean all taxes. Well,
the protests I know here in California, where people were, it was like a mixed bag of nuts. I guess you had some signs that were saying hands off, and that's it. And then if they were interviewed, they were asked, what are you protesting here today? Some of them were saying hands off Social Security and Medicaid, that Donald Trump's getting rid of it. And it's like, no, he's not getting rid of it, but they're misinformed. But anyway, you had others that were there for the transgender rights. You had others that were there for, the protesting for the recent, I don't know what, athletic incident.
Let's look at those one at a time. Medicaid is a state issue. It's not a federal issue. The only time the state got involved in it when Obama came up with this program on Medicaid extension, then you had the federal government put money in states to help them get along, but they was always warned. When the federal government pulls out, then all this is going to be to bear on you, state. The federal government is going to say goodbye. And that's exactly what you're seeing going on now. So hands off don't have anything to do with the federal government. It's the states. They dumb.
Well, that's what I was saying. There were a lot of people that were out there, and some of them didn't know what they were out there for. There were others that were willing to be interviewed and had, legitimate complaints or whatever because they're worried about too many things are going on and at one time, and they can't keep up. And it just seems like America is being flipped upside down, and so it makes them nervous, makes them scared, and they would just like it to slow down. So
they're so bad that the Republicans are telling the leadership is telling the other Republicans not to have these meetings. No town hall meetings, no meetings with the public. Don't do any TV shots. I mean, the Republicans are so stupid.
They are.
That they don't have, they're telling their own people not to talk.
Well, they're also not passing bills. They have bills that are introduced since January. Yeah, since January. And they don't even have text to them. yet, these bills. Honest to God, you can go to congress.gov and look up all these bills that they have written up as far as just title and no text to them. I was on X last week, 3 days in a row, and I stopped posting because I got tired because I was going through each bill, opening it up to see what it was about, whoever had proposed it, and all these bills just have the title, and that's it. And it says, it says text to be still written or something, or processed or whatever the hell. But yeah, there's no text.
I've been out today, but we've got everything is going great. But I'm glad you pointed that out. And the other thing that I reminded me of what I saw was a sign that was saying everybody has a tariff but Russia. And when I'm thinking about it, I was like, shit, that's true. Every country in the world is going to get a tariff on a Tuesday, except Russia. What's that about, John?
Well, we don't buy anything for how much. Can you find anything in your house that's made in Russia?
Made in Russia. I've seen some things that come out of Russia that come from America.
I don't have nothing done that I can see. I'm looking at oxygen pans and bowls right now.
You're not gonna find any specialty stuff. Even then, coming in.
Yeah, you can't tell the country that we don't buy stuff from. We've disconnected with them. But going back to this other issue, they're using the R word, the recession word. Oh, we can't have recession. It depends what kind of recession you're having. If you're having a recession where nothing's going on, you have no business, there's no growth, that's a problem. But when you have a recession where there's a contraction, like we're going to start having our own industry. We're going to start dropping these tariffs that are charged on us that have killed our businesses. We have a product we can send to these other countries. They over-tariff it to the point no one wants to buy it. There's a certain price point. So the point is, there is an opportunity for things to move forward. We have several trillion of business coming to this country. Apple and NVIDIA and all these different companies that Trump's brought in, they've had them every day at the White House. Here's this company, here's that company. They're going to invest more money, with Apple, with Ford, with all these different car companies, Fiat. It's going to happen. And instead, people are jumping up and going, oh, we have a recession in 1 week. Really?
Yeah.
1 week? We had 4 years of Jimmy Carter where things died. Nothing was going on. That's a recession. So you can talk in 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years from now about recession. This is just over panic, people freaking out like a kid screaming in the candy store. Just shut up, just relax. We've had 4 years of Biden selling us out, and Clinton, and NAFTA. NAFTA's terrible. So just relax. It's been 1 month, 2 months.
Bush started it with
Give the plan a couple of years, a year. Just suck it up, relax. Stop freaking out.
orange chicken.
We had 20 years in Afghanistan. 20 years in Afghanistan.
That's what I've been saying, John, the whole time. What you just said. Relax. And that's what I was asking you to do. Because you're the biggest whiner up there of all. You got Pierre beat by a mile.
All wine and dine ya, Don. All wine and dine ya.
Bottom line is that you said what I've been saying all along. Everybody needs to chill out, see where the chips fall, and then start working from there.
Yeah, and try and understand what's going on. Like you were saying, people are being stupid. They're not just reacting, before they actually understand what's happening. And so you're on the right page.
Yeah, there are nuances that need to be fixed anyway. Yeah. So we might as well see where this works out, and give him. I give him credit for at least taking on this charge, because this isn't easy. That's why the Dems didn't do it. They just put their heads in the sand. And,
well, there's some. their solution was to grow government. Basically, all those government jobs, people, the jobs numbers that would come out, and it's like, okay, that's great, but we're still not making anything here.
Yeah, but the thing is that the New Deal worked. That's what we're talking about. The New Deal worked. So
which deal's that? What deal?
FDR's deal. Roosevelt.
Oh, FDR. He sold us out.
Well, no, he didn't. I mean, not in terms of getting jobs. He got this country rolling.
Gold. He took the gold away. Remember that? Once you take away the gold, the money's fiat. And once that happens in 50 to 100 years, the system collapses. That's historical. That's just logic. I know people don't work with logic. They work with emotion. And they work with comfort, it's like the communists. We'll take care of you. Just give us your weapons. Turn over your businesses, comrade. We're all gonna.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you can, that's how most countries in the world, they don't have weapons. Us in Switzerland are the only countries who are really allowed to have gun.
Well, did you know that Norway, every citizen in that country has a gun?
Norway, Switzerland, Norway. Switzerland, Norway.
Don, why do you live in the United States? Why don't you move either to Russia, China, or any of the countries of Africa? Africa, that's very interesting because they've got a whole continent, but they have all these different countries. Now, we have these different states. Each one of our states, can outperform their countries. But why are they weak? They're divided. They have no common. They have all these little different dictator people. Right. This is the race, the master race. You're telling me that so superior, and yet they can't even unite.
So superior so far in the future.
They have low crime.
We are past both of them. I mean, we essentially don't have crime. We have crime in certain areas of certain cities. Otherwise, we're living as peaceful as anybody can be because we are the king.
In Africa?
Gods.
They're always talking about gun violence. We need more laws against gun violence. But Norway, Switzerland.
The only people in Africa who have guns pretty much are the police and if any country has people who are rebels.
Well, they also have swords. The Muslims have swords, and they kill Christians over there, machetes. They don't need weapons. They kill Christians.
Exactly. But the thing is that the Christians are probably, I don't know if they're, doing something wrong or out of God's law or something like that. Because you should be a Muslim, John. If you believe in all the things that people should be, Muslims they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't fornicate, they don't do anything that is unholy. They just everybody believes in Yahweh in some form or another. So we're talking everybody should want to be a Muslim because that is, if you want to talk about sin or lack of sin, that is ideal.
Why do they call the Mormons a cult when they have those very same beliefs as far as they don't drink coffee, the caffeine, because it's a stimulant? As far as drinking alcohol, that's a no-no because they believe that their bodies are a temple that holds the Holy Spirit. So but people call them a cult. And as far as Muslims go?
I call them a cult because they don't always, again, Yahweh was not the purpose of the founder. The founder wanted the society. He wanted a society that was pure, and that's what he got. And he just threw God or whatever, and they worship in there. But they came over here to get away from persecution from everybody, and they use that as an excuse. That's why I call it a cult. It wasn't necessarily generated out of a angst of having to get away or having to believe in something. That's it. There's small distinctions. There are, nuanced distinctions, but I, in terms of my teachings, because as I said, I almost had a minor in theology and philosophy, so I was able to study a lot of these things. And in terms of the differentiation between a cult and a religion, it's just about more or less time and how it is formed. But everybody they bastardize all these religions, and they're not in their true form. None of them are in their true forms anymore.
Right, but I mean, they're self-sustaining. They don't need their members don't need any help from the government. They would rather not have you go to the government. They self-sustain their people, their members of their church, because Christ
they don't want to
provides.
Because they don't want to raise taxes. They don't give a shit about their parishioners most of the time. It's about the taxes, about the money, about living free without having any financial encumbrance.
Well, what about the members of the church? They benefit from that.
Oh, if they get tithes, they give tithes so the church can give back in times of need. The Catholic Church is the best one at that. They will kill some people. The homosexuality is rampant. It's not everyone. But yet, they will go out and feed entire communities.
Who? The Catholic Church?
Yeah.
Never. No, they don't have the money to do that. Or clothe people or anything else. But the Mormon Church does that as well, the Latter-day Saints.
Oh, they take care of their people excellently.
Well, also, as far as any type of tragedies in other countries or whatever, they're not just to themselves. They help anybody, earthquakes, whatever. They're always there. You can find them, and they're very, people will not report on that, and some do, local papers and stuff, but yeah, they're not recognized for that because I would give them too much credit as far as being able to live being self-sustaining. And
well, again, there's a white element of pride or privilege, or essentially, they're racist. Until but 10 years ago, no blacks could get into the family, get into the upper echelons of the leadership, and in fact, until about 25 years ago, blacks weren't even welcome. Indians, they killed more Native Americans than any other person.
and there are a lot of them that were killed too while they were traveling.
Oh yeah, no. There's no doubt that there was vicious violence when the whole
persecuted.
Yeah. And so, everybody was...
The Catholic religion, boy, they really bent the knee to the transgender and to the LGBT community. When you had... Yeah, the last pope was like, we should welcome all people and, welcome into the houses. And now we have...
in the history of the Catholic...
Yeah, they have women Catholic priests now, which is bizarre to me, but...
I didn't hear that.
Oh, yeah. I was reading it. What were we watching? And I was like, no way.
Catholic,
do you remember?
Women's Catholic preachers?
Huh?
No.
Oh, yeah, I know. No, I totally get you. It didn't really make sense to me at all, but yes, she was. And that just was bizarre to me.
Yeah, they can be deacons now, but they cannot be female priests. And no.
Oh, yeah, she was. But anyway, I'll have to find that and send it to you.
That would be significant.
Yes, it would. That's why I was like blown away. It was like a documentary we were watching or something. I'll find it anyway. And that's what I was telling my husband. No way. Nuh-uh. When did this happen? Why was this happening?
I'll check that out myself. But the men are notorious. While I was in Italy, they had a big bust of orgy priests.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just...
It's disgusting. I don't even know how it can exist.
Disgusting. People, the Catholics, in essence, could almost be created the devil, and that's where the religious.
And yet, when the Pope speaks, all these other religions will listen. It's like they're bowing down to the Catholic Church, even though they may be, Protestant, Baptist, whatever. But when the Pope speaks, it's like a big deal. When he's speaking to the world, it's like, what the hell is that about?
Well, let me tell you something. What was going on Epstein's Island and P. Diddy goes on in the Catholic Church.
They call it that all the time. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but this is gay. This is gaydom. This is priests on kids, young men, and the ladies on themselves. And so that's the problem. Because one of the biggest abominations of not sins, depends on who you're talking to or which edition, but one of the biggest is laying, sleeping with the same sex. So, when you're talking about that, they're talking about that as being one of the tenets of going to hell. And they do it all the time. It's just a normal thing for them. It's the necessity for them to get into the priesthood. And,
the Vatican is a city within a city, and people accept that.
There's a big ass place too. If you've been to the Vatican, it's like 4 or 5 miles square. It's huge.
And how are they allowed to have all these documents and records and stuff that are locked up? Nobody can see, nobody can read, anything like that. They just have it all locked up. Why? And people accept it. They're like, well, whatever. They have their reasons, or maybe they think the public can't handle it. It's like, well, that's not for them to decide. How do they get to lock up history? What's up with that?
Because they're Catholic. Pope is the nearest thing to God, to Christ, and in their mind. And so he can do whatever he wants, and if he thinks information that deemed not for any eyes, then, for eyes only, his eyes only, then that's what he does.
I know, it's such a crock of crap. It's not even funny, and people go along with that.
Same thing with UFOs, same thing with JFK. We just had another investigation on JFK file, and nothing new. Zero. They had 3,500 extra pages that they had released, and it was all redacted.
Yep. We didn't learn anything new. Yep, that was a big deal.
And they're talking about it, and there goes another diversion, another denial, so that we can deflect what's going on in the government, where the dome is in Social Security and the Treasury Department. They don't want people to know that those has carte blanche right now and all of our records. They can do whatever they want with them. So that's something that we are not being told, because we're being told that JFK had a secret admirer who shot him in the foot before he shot him in the head. Who knows? Bottom line is that these are diversions.
Well, we need audits for our federal government and for our state governments and local governments. And so anybody who does those audits, they're going to have access to records. And as far as personal data, it's actually just metadata. And from there they go and they find the people.
You can find minuscule information from metadata.
Look, you can't say that people are not selecting the Social Security checks of those that are dead.
Of course.
Now, let me tell you how that works. Generally, it's an undertaker.
White people let that shit go on for so long.
Hell, black people let it go on too. I mean, I can show you some schemes that's going on with black folks. You'd be surprised.
And where they
let me tell you how that works.
Okay,
it's the undertaker that reports that death, and he can be, or she can be bought off.
Correct.
Then how would they ever know? And another thing, those that move overseas, they don't know if them people are alive or dead. Hell, those countries don't even have a methodology of recording live birth, let alone dead.
Yeah. I mean, there are loopholes, but there are needs for audits. Absolutely. But I mean, you don't just go in there, with a vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming up the plants and the paperwork and cigars that haven't been even smoked. You don't just go in and tear shit up. You do it in a organized fashion.
They did it how it needed to be done, because if you do it in an orderly fashion, it'll take forever because of the amount of people that are here. And the 2.1 million people that illegal immigrants that were seeking asylum under Biden this year, it reached 2.1. But prior to that, we're talking 700,000 that were granted a green card and a Social Security card. They gave them, it wasn't a green card, but they gave them permission to work, and they issued Social Security cards to these people. And they didn't qualify, but they gave them out anyway, and they had just found that out, and they were registered to vote on top of that. And so it was like, all right, well, that's good that you found him, but what are we going to do about it? But all Elon's job is to do is just to report what he finds and leave it up to the authorities, so to speak, to deal with it as far as what they do with it. So
he's the professional for that. I wouldn't trust our authorities, white authorities, for shit. And bottom line, though, damn, I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead. I'll get it back in a second.
No, I was just saying, his job, like any auditor, would go in, find out where problems are, where, you know, the company or business or our government can be more efficient, and where they're losing money, we need to get rid of that and this and that. And then he turns that over, and then the DOJ does what they do as far as any type of prosecution or punishment or whatever, finding these people and, you know, to give that money back or however they're going to do it. But nevertheless, all his job is to find it and expose it. Here it is. This is what we found with this department, this department, this department, and that's it.
Yeah, well, he's the professional. He's the expert. He doesn't need to just go in there and find the waste. He needs to be able to execute. The second half you mentioned is redistributing. So, you know, he's the expert. That's what he came in, and now he's leaving. You know, that's going to put a strain on whoever comes in, and the whole entire atmosphere of the process that the president is going to bring on. That's what he brought him on in the first place. So this is going to be a big difference in dynamic when he does leave.
Okay.
So I made that very smoothly. Like I said earlier, all of these plans are pieces that have to fit together perfectly, or else this can tumble out of control, and we don't, you know, we'll be just swimming in never land, essentially. Natural systems are going to be out of whack. Some people are going to be making money, some using it like a sieve, and all of it hemorrhaging to a few. They're not going to, you know, he'll cut us a $5,000 check in the next probably 4 months. Everybody's going to get $5,000, and it's not going to make up for my boss. My boss has lost $13,000, he says, in his 401k already. So it's not going to help him. $5,000 is going to be, you know, dropping the bucket your way. These are things that investors, you know, Musk himself has lost $100 billion, and that was 4 days ago. He could be up to $200 billion, but he can absorb it because he's got to keep.
Well, he needs to use the money that he has to buy while it's low, because anything that goes down comes back up.
But it usually comes back up. Everything is cyclical, and it'll come back up at some point.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. Getting whiplash from everything, you know, the executive orders. I just wish Congress would do their end of the job so that he wouldn't have to do it by executive order. But in order to right the ship, so to speak, while we're stopping the bleeding, where the wealth gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, he had to basically, you know, break the bank. and we're starting from ground zero as far as with the trade deals, getting industry back, manufacturing back, and all that. So it's a lot for people to absorb at one time. But at one point, within the next 4 or 5 years, hopefully it will all come together if we stay on track or stay on point. But it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a lot better than it is now. Status quo wise.
As long as you got idiots like Akeem Jeffries and Booker, things gonna still be jacked up. I ask, how can you be against rooting out fraud, waste, and corruption? But they are. They are the enemy. Then you got the news. Then you have the media. The media is one of the biggest enemies of the United States that you could ever perceive. They are trifling. They are toxic.
They are. And they blow up everything to these big stories. Sorry to cut you off, Bianchi. Recently, this woman in Pennsylvania last week had claimed there was a noose left on her desk. Come to find out, it was her that did it. And you still have people protesting, saying, no, they set her up. They set her up. It's like, what do you mean they set her up? Why would they set her up? Set her up for what? That doesn't even make sense. When they found her DNA all over the noose rope thing that she tied together and left on her desk or put on her desk, and then claimed she was getting death threats. And so I just don't understand. It's like, what? I mean, really, really hyping up those type of stories, and then when they're exposed, not so much. I mean, a lot of people heard about, the whole Tiffany Hayner thing, mess that was going on, and you have people in New York, those district attorneys, Bragg and Smith and whoever, that story got really hush-hush as far as media reporting on that, as far as what's happening with those people and them being exposed. But it's just, they hide what they hide, and they highlight what they highlight in order to get everybody in a big old tip. It's like, just relax, breathe. Are you directly affected right now by anything that Trump is doing? I mean, directly affected. I want to know, are you paying more gas? Are you paying, is everything going up? How are you being affected by what he's doing today? Or even when he started? Well, I don't know. It's just, people say that tariffs are bad, and it's like, okay, all right. I can't talk to you. I mean, not that whatever I explain is just not going to register if you're going to just believe what people say, instead of actually looking into it, history and how it worked in the past. And now people are saying, it doesn't work. Well, it worked. That's how it became, that first industrial revolution that we had a lot to do with that. And it's, there's just so much more involved in it, but they're just not interested in learning.
Okay. So, is James taking her nap still? Because she can actually stay there. But,
Any last thoughts?
Yeah, she's in our thoughts. And anything else, John, Bianchi? I would say, I'm sorry I told Johnny. I'm sorry. Other than that, if anybody doesn't have anything else to bring up, I don't see why we need to keep on going or have to keep on going. Anything,
right.
Bianchi?
Any last thoughts?
Well, I'm glad these damn judges are being put in their place, but it shouldn't just stop there. They need to be kicked off the bench and done away with.
Yeah, most of them are appointed by Trump. So I agree with you. He had 179 appointments, federal judgeships, and he filled every one of them. And none of them were Democrats. So his judges suck, just like his regime. But we'll just see how it works out.
Yep. I don't have any last thoughts other than God bless everybody, and
God bless everybody.
God bless America.
Yeah, well, we got one person on the line that's like that God stuff.
Well, my last remarks is God bless America.
Oh, there you go. He did say it. All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good conversation.
Yep. We'll say whenever Jane's ready, we'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Good night, Jane.
She's not there.
No, but if she listens to the show afterwards.
Later on. Okay, yeah. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
All right.